Welcome back to another interview from the Draw Control podcast. Today I am here with senior attacker on the Boston College women's lacrosse team, Mckenna Davis. In her career, Mckenna has played in 70 plus games and has amassed over 80 goals, 160 plus assists, and 240 plus points. This has allowed Mckenna to be on the All-ACC First Team, NCAA All-Tournament Team in 2024, and the All-ACC Freshman Team in 2022. Mckenna was also named an IL Women's Second Team All-Conference All-American twice, and she broke the BC Women's Lacrosse all-time record in assists last year. Mckenna, most importantly, has helped BC to a national championship last season and two ACC titles as well. I'm honored to be sitting here with her today. So, Mckenna, welcome to the Draw Control podcast, and how is everything going?
Hi, I'm so excited. Everything's going good, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm super happy to have you on as well. And obviously, at the time of this recording, your team is currently undefeated. So, what have you taken away from your team's performance this season so far?
Yeah, I mean, undefeated is a great thing, and we've been playing really well, but we're not really too concerned with our past performance, and we're focused on our future performance and how can we strive for excellence. So, 6-0 is great, but we're trying to we're trying to be a little bit better than that. So we're focused on getting ready for our next game, which is Notre Dame this weekend, and pushing for that 7-0 now.
Now, how has this year's team, from your perspective, been both different and similar to last year's national championship squad? It seems to me like you guys haven't missed a beat, but you guys did lose some really good players from last year's team, especially on the defensive end with Hunter and Becky graduating, and on the draw with Ryan graduating as well.
Yeah, I think that one thing that BC does really well is we just reload with talent and we lose great players, but the players that we do lose, everyone is able to learn from them, whether you watch them play as you were getting recruited to come here or the past few years. Like not even playing defense, I still learned from Becky, Hunter, Sid, not taking the draw. I still learned from Ryan. So being able to lose such great players is just a testament to the program and how great it's been. But being able to learn from them and how our team has been able to learn, I mean, personnel changes, but the goal remains the same.
Yeah, and how does your team sort of handle the pressure of being a top-ranked team in the country? And how do you guys try to build on that consistency? Because obviously it must not be easy because every team they put a target on your back. They want to be the team that beats you guys and get that upset. So I'm curious how your team sort of handles that mentally.
Yeah, I'd say we welcome the target. We like having that. I think it makes us work harder and knowing that every team we play is going to give us their best game, it makes us want to work that much harder so we can give every team our best game. And, it's not going to always be perfect, but that's what you get when playing in like such a competitive conference and playing at just a high competitive level. Playing your best and striving for greatness is something that our team loves and we want to do and we want to compete and we want to work hard. We welcome the challenge. So having the target on our back, we welcome it, we like it, and I think it makes us so much better. It makes us work harder.
Now, your team has some of the best attackers in the country with players like Rachel Clark, Emma Lopinto, yourself, Molly Driscoll, who has really emerged this season, and Mallory Hasselbeck, who just came back from an injury. Talk about the chemistry you guys have built over the years and what you've learned from playing with players like that throughout your time with BC.
Yeah, I mean, well, Mallory's been my rock since freshman year, and to have her come back is so great. She's such an inspiration, and the way she carries herself and work and like the way she works makes me and like the rest of the offense want to work so much harder for her. And Molly's a great lefty. I love having another lefty out there with me. She's so fun. She's so creative, and she's got that hockey stick skills. So she's so fun to play with, and I like having her on the left elbow with me. Rachel and Emma, I mean, those are my two best friends, and they make me play so much better. They make everyone around them better, and being able to work with those two, who I wasn't with my first 2 years, it just makes me so much more grateful for them now. And I feel like the luckiest person ever to have all these great attackers on my side. It makes the game so much more fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure did Molly play hockey as well as lacrosse before
Yeah,
coming to college?
yeah.
So that probably has something to do with the hockey style of
You
attack.
can tell, yeah. Her sidearm shot, it's so good. You can see the translation. It's awesome.
Now, the thing I admire about your game, McKenna, is your playmaking ability. I think you're one of the best playmakers in the country. How do you sort of work on that part of your game, and how have you been trying to improve on that part of your game, especially with defenders defending you differently throughout the years, I imagine?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of takes a different approach to defending me. And, it starts in practice because practicing against the best defenders, the best goalies, that's what makes me better. And having such great teammates who know that I need a challenge in practice and who know how to make me better, just even from like a mental perspective, knowing like, okay, we're playing this team this week. This is how they're going to play you. How can I help you? So a lot of it comes from my teammates pushing me on the defensive side. And I know, like, even in between drills and practice or after practice, I'm just talking with my teammates, focusing and like walking through things. And, being a playmaker, I think that being in that lefty pocket, it gives me such a great like it just gives me such great ability to do it because I'm in such a good position. But that doesn't really come without my coaching staff having belief in me and coaching me and training me and pushing me to be my best. And it doesn't come without my teammates trusting me to make the right play.
Yeah, obviously, I'll skip ahead a little bit because you're obviously co being coached by one of the best coaches of all time, in my opinion, in Acacia Walker. What makes her such a great coach from your perspective, and how is she different, I guess, from other coaches you might have had in the past?
She is so amazing. Our whole coaching staff is great. And there's two things I would say that separate our coaching staff from everyone else is one is they coach the person, not necessarily the player. And I think that's really important to understand is that outside of all of this, we're people, we're just college students, and being able to coach people is really difficult to understand. And, I look at Acacia and she's like a second mom to me. And I look at Jen and Sam and like Callahan, they're all very similar and they focus on the relation aspect first before you even start the physical coaching side. And I think that just creates such a strong bond between the player and coach that I think is really, really special here at BC. And the other thing that separates them is their will to win. I know no other coaching staff that wants to win as much as we do. And you can talk about winning and you can just say, oh, we want to go out there, compete, we want to win, but there has to be actions behind the words. And I think our coaches do such a good job of putting strong actions into their words when it means we want to go out there and win. They're the ones making the coaching plan, they're the ones making the adjustments. And they deserve all the credit in the world because they're so phenomenal. And I'm so lucky to be coached by such great people that just want to win, but want me as a person to be a better person.
Now, we were talking about some of the teammates you have on the attacking side of things, but speaking of teammates, I do have to ask you, you get to play with your younger sister, Hannah. What's it been like being on a team with her again since I think she was telling us the last time you guys played together was in high school when she was a freshman. So, what's it been like having her on the team again this year?
It is so fun. She is my little rock. I love her. And it's so nice because everyone on the team is my family and they're all like my sisters. But having like my actual family member and my actual sister by my side, it means so much because she knows when I'm off. She knows when she needs me. She knows when I need some space. And having someone who knows you inside and out, like the back of their hand, is so special. And I'm always able to like we play the same exact position too, which I think is so special because she sees things differently than how I might. So being able to get insight from her and then vice versa, me being able to coach her, it's so special. And it was my senior year in high school and her freshman year. So it's been a full circle, my senior year, her freshman year. And it's been a really good way to kind of end my college career having her starting hers.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Hannah gave us a really sweet answer about what you meant to her in her lacrosse career. So I thought I'll ask you the same question. What has Hannah meant to you, both on and off the field, for your lacrosse career?
She's my everything. I can't say it enough. She's my rock. I growing up with her in the backyard and competing and playing and just making each other better has definitely carried over all these years. And it's not something that I want to take for granted. And being able to watch her at this level now, too, it's so fulfilling for me. Just being able to look back and remember all those years outside playing catch when we were like 6 and 4 years old or 6 and 3, however old we were and to now be able to just like have a catch with her out on alumni or out on Newton, it's really full circle and really fulfilling, and it means the whole world to me to have her out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are now with BC. So you're from Canandaigua, New York. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
So I grew up in Pittsford, New York, which is like 30-ish minutes from Canandaigua, and I played just for my town, and I have such a good memory of this. I was playing town, and my dad was just sitting on the sideline, and he was just, I think he was very frustrated, and I was like not even second grade. I was in kindergarten, preschool, like just playing. And I just remember him being like, "What is going on?" And he didn't like that. So he took it into his hands. He was like, "I'm making my own club team. My daughter needs to play for me. This is what we're doing." So then I started playing for him for a club team, and he created Monster Elite so I could have a competitive place to play. And then I just grew up playing for him about until about eighth grade. I think he finally moved on from coaching me, stepped into Hannah's team a little bit more as I was old enough. And then for my senior year of high school, actually go back to sophomore year, my dad got a coaching job for Canandaigua. And then we moved my senior year right after COVID had ended. We moved to Canandaigua so I could finish out my career, start Hannah's career playing for our dad. So the move wasn't bad at all. It was honestly great, and I'm so happy we did it because I got to play with some of my best friends who are from Canandaigua that also played on my club team and that I had just known through the lacrosse world. And ending that career, we won sectionals. Like it was a huge year for us, and that was a really good way to end high school, wrap up my high school lacrosse. That was awesome.
Yeah, I want to ask you about your dad because Hannah was telling us that he knows the lacrosse rule book all the way in the back of his head. She says
Literally.
he thinks she says he thinks he sleeps with it sometimes. That's how much she knows about it. But what was it? What's it like? I guess what has he taught you about the game and how's he helped you in your lacrosse career? Because he had a really successful career himself playing for
Yeah.
Nazareth and then pro lacrosse a little bit as well. I was reading about.
He's taught me everything. I mean, he made me a lefty. I write with my right, and he was like, "No, no, the world needs a lefty. You're going put it in your left." He made me a lefty. He he does. I swear, he knows the rule book so well, and not even just the rule book. He understands the game and the creativity aspect to it. So play the game how it's meant to be played, but also the fundamentals and just adding layers to it. He's taught me so he's gonna love hearing this. He's gonna look back and be like, yeah, yeah. But he has taught me. He's taught me everything, and I still talk to him like after every game. I'm like, what did you see here? What did you see here? Like going into game week, I'm always calling him. I'm always on the phone. Like, what do we do here? What do we do here? So even though he's not my coach anymore, he never has stopped being my coach because we're always walking through stuff together, and he's always helped me with my game, which I think is so great. I'm so lucky for him. He's awesome.
Yeah, and obviously there's been a lot of rule changes in lacrosse since you started out with BC your freshman year. Does he always call you when the rule changes happen? And like, hey, here's this new rule change. So you already know about it before everyone else does, probably.
Yeah, you got to know about it, but then you got to understand it. So he's like, he'll give like a situation like, okay, if this happens, then this happens, and then you can do this. And I'm like, okay, good. Then I mentally walk through it. I'm like, yeah, now I know now I know what's up. So it's
That's
good to
awesome.
try and stay like one step ahead of everyone.
Now, growing up, who was your favorite player and team to watch? Because Hannah did say that you were a Syracuse fan growing up. So I have to,
Yeah.
obviously that's changed, but she said she was always a BC fan growing up. So I have to ask if that's true. And if not, who was
Yeah.
your favorite player and team that you like to watch growing up?
No, no, she's not wrong. I was like the biggest Gary Gate fan, the biggest Kayla Trainer fan ever, and being like an hour, if that, from Syracuse. We not even we, I dragged my dad to every single home game at Syracuse and just would watch. And because my dad knows Gary very well just through the lacrosse world. So having Gary come over and the players coming over, like that was my dream was to just be a college lacrosse player. So looking into everyone, like looking up to Kayla was so surreal. Like seeing her play live has really influenced my career. And Kayla was the coach at BC while I was getting recruited. So when I got the phone call, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I grew up watching this girl play. This is amazing. So cool. It was really good." And her being able to put me on the BC wave and then Hannah being a BC fan from actually day one. Like we joke about it cuz BC was her dream school before it was my dream school, but she her Kayla and Hannah both really like influenced me towards BC. And then once you talk to Acacia, you just fall in love with her. So you really don't have any other choice.
Yeah, exactly. It must be a very full circle moment as well to like root for Syracuse growing up and now wanting to beat them once you got to college.
Oh yeah, every time. It's my favorite game because I grew up loving that school and I love all the Cuse girls. I feel like I have a really good relationship with a lot of them. So being able to root for them while they play and then still being able to go compete against them, it's so fun and it makes the game 10 times more competitive. Everyone wants to win, leave it all out in the field. And this year we're going back to Syracuse, so it'll be my return to upstate, which I'm excited for.
Oh, that's going to be a fun game as well. Looking
Yeah.
forward to that one from a fan perspective. So, but let's talk about your pre-college lacrosse days. So before college, you played for your high school at Canandaigua Academy, like you just mentioned. What was your experience like there? And do you have like a favorite lacrosse memory from Canandaigua looking back on it now?
Yeah, I mean, my experience there was great. And I think when COVID hit, you kind of had to take each day at a time. And every day my dad would be like, leave it all out there today because tomorrow's never promised. And being able to genuinely buy into each day and each practice made me love it even more. And having such a team that was so bought into winning and being able to leave it all on the field made everyone else want to work so much harder. And when we got to sectionals, there was no states. They had canceled states for that year due to COVID. And so we knew that the sectional final was our last game. Like that was it. And winning that game, it was like a 2-goal game. It was so it was one of my favorite high school memories. I mean, looking back, our coaches, my dad being the coach, our assistant coaches, the other seniors, it was just so heartwarming and being able to end my career on that win against it was our biggest rivalry too. So it felt 10 times better. And I think that was definitely my favorite moment.
Now, like you also mentioned, you also played club lacrosse for Monster Elite. How did your club lacrosse experience sort of help prepare you for college with Boston College, playing with those other Division One commits, not just on your team, but on the teams that you played against as well?
Yeah, I loved playing club. I mean, playing in high school is fun because you get to play against all the local club girls and it's more competitive and loose. But playing on a club team where it's very competitive and very intense, I think what Monster does is they do a good job of showcasing everyone and everyone on the team. So even if, like there's like a purple and a white team, if you're on either one, you're still getting the same looks that every other kid in the country is getting looked at by coaches. And going to the top tournaments and playing against the top teams, winning or losing, being on the field with great players makes you a better player. So being able to play for such a great, it's still a new program because I was the first year to go through it. It's being able to be on a young new club team and then going right into competitiveness for teams that have been around for a while. It's hard, but that challenge is really good. I think that's made me a better player. It's been challenging myself since I was little to now make it to the stage of college lacrosse has made it a smoother transition.
Yeah, I think the exposure that you get there is really impressive to me because sometimes, on my Instagram, I'll cl occasionally see like clips from girls from Monsters doing some cool stuff. I think the best one obviously was Hannah's ankle breaker, which I talked to her about a couple of months ago. So it's always fun seeing those clips and seeing those future, I guess, college lacrosse players that are coming up on the scene.
Yeah, I mean that video is so iconic. It's so cool.
Do you think you'll
Love
have an
it.
ankle break moment like that? I think you sort of had one in
Oh,
the
I
national
hope.
championship game last year, but I feel like it'll be cool to have like one again this year as a senior.
I hope so. I mean, I gotta take notes from Hannah, obviously,
Yeah,
but that would be great. I actually should probably practice that some more, but I would love something like that. That'd be so fun.
that's awesome. Well, I'll manifest it for you as well to
Thank you.
help come true eventually. So, well, let's talk about your recruiting process to BC and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at. I know you mentioned Kayla Trainer was a big part of that recruiting process. I'm just curious though, like when was the first time you like went to the school and when did you know like that this was the place you wanted to go to?
So September 1st came around and I was at our lake house just on vacation and very, very overwhelming as soon as the clock strikes midnight. You're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Once it had kind of cooled down, my dad and I and my mom, we had sat down and we're like, you only get 5 official visits. you have to pick your top 5 schools. So picking 5 schools out of the 75 that I'd called, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like mentally, it's like, wow. But I had narrowed it down. I had top 5 schools within 3 days, and I was like, I'm visiting here. This is good. Great. My first visit was BC, and it was that first Friday. It was the first weekend that I could go. And it was just like a day in the life. I went to class with a few of the girls. I went out to lunch with the coaches. It was just a day trip. And I didn't step on campus first. We went into like the backside of the BC. We went in through the locker room, and as soon as you sit down in the office with the coaches, and as soon as you hug Acacia and hug Sam and Kayla and Jen, you're just like, oh my God, like you feel a part of the family, even though you just got here. And that family atmosphere that I felt was something that never left me as I continued my recruiting process. I could still look back and feel that. And then fast forward like a month, there was a fall clinic that I had wanted to go to back with BC because I'd never been to a BC camp before until junior year. And it was their fall one. And I'd brought some of my teammates with me, and we were doing this King of the Hill. And my team was playing against all the BC commits. So I was playing against Andrea Reynolds, Belle Smith, Hunter Roman. And it was a really surreal moment because I was like, I know these girls. Like, these girls are awesome. Like, just like from like the lacrosse world. So then playing against them in camp was really fun. And then I still had about 2 more visits after that. And every day after that, you just feel the competitiveness and you feel the family culture that's involved in it. And I think that's so important that BC prioritizes both. And that ultimately was my decision maker was familyness surrounded by love and competitive energy and that will to win.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Am I allowed to ask who are the other schools that you visited just so we can get like a
Yeah.
what if of where you might have gone?
Yeah. Michigan, USC, Florida, Louisville, and UVA.
Oh, okay. You could have been teammates with Abby. We could have talked about that. That would have been
That would have been
interesting.
so fun. Yeah. No, I love Louisville. Teeter, he's good friends with my dad, so he's great. I love Teeter. He's a good guy.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. We gotta get him on the pod at some point. That would be a
You
lot of
should.
fun.
He's awesome.
Now, as a freshman, like what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
Probably playing next to Charlotte North. I had no, it was just like, oh my God, this is real. It was, I mean, the talent that everyone on the team has is incredible. And when you get recruited to top schools, it's for a reason. Everyone knows that you're skilled and that you need to be here, but being coachable is really important because it doesn't just stop once you commit and it doesn't just stop as soon as you get there. Like there's so much more room to grow. So when I was a freshman, I had a mindset of I'm just so grateful to be here and I just want to learn and I just want to play with these great people and learn from these great people. And in the fall, my main focus was, oh my God, I'm just going to watch Charlotte. What does Charlotte do? Okay, I'm going to go in. How can I apply that? Or what is Sam saying to Belle? Or what is Sam saying to Kayla? What are they saying to other people that then I can go in and I can apply? And that's a really hard thing to do, I think, is just one, be coachable, but two, apply it right away. And honestly, the speed and the physicality of the game, I mean, defenders, they're so strong and they're so fast, and in which the way the ball is spinning and moving, it's really fast. So being able to try and adjust to that was really hard for me. But once you kind of can catch up and understand the flow and the swing of things, once you get a little bit under your belt, you feel a little more confident in it.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's an interesting answer because I feel like playing with Charlotte North, like it would sort of be like, oh, she makes me better just by being on the same field with her. So maybe those struggles that I'm having as a freshman aren't as noticeable on tape than it would be if I wasn't playing with her. But I definitely could see where, like, yeah, you want to try to be the best type of player you can be to make her look as good as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, whatever I can do to support the girls that have been there for so long was my goal. And I think that's kind of how I stepped into a good feeding role was these superstars that maybe they're drawing 3 defenders and they can't dodge anymore. How can I get them the ball off of a cut or something? And I think being able to just change my game just a little bit opens up more for everyone else. And I mean, like you had Jen Medjid too, you had Caitlin Mossman, just these really like veteran players that had been there and worked so hard. You just want to work as hard as you can for them because they've been there for so long and you want to see them succeed. So what can I do to serve my teammates that have been here that I love that I want to see succeed?
Yeah. Even when there was three defenders on Charlotte, she still found a way to score.
Of
It was
course. Yeah.
incredible.
I mean, she's the best. So that was being on the field next to her, especially from a freshman, was very it's a great opportunity and it's very eye-opening because you're just like, oh my God, how does she do the things that she does? And being able to see it from like 5 yards away it's so cool.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your sophomore year because in that year, your team made it to the national championship game and lost to Northwestern. I want to just ask you about that game because I'm curious how you handled that loss and what you learned from that game and how did it sort of help your team in the following season to sort of know what it has to take to sort of get over that hump and win the national championship.
The loss was I think it was harder for me that year than it was my freshman year. Freshman year, not only was it a closer game, but I think I had a bigger role in the game as a sophomore. And, you know, losing by that much and in that way isn't how anyone wants to lose, especially in like the biggest game of the year. So going home with that was really hard. And I think my biggest thing was looking at the senior class in front of me. It was not only their last year, it was my last year with them. And like selfishly, I wanted the rest of my college career to end with those girls because I loved them so much and they had been there for me since my freshman year. And kind of switching it to like, you know what? Yeah, I have 2 more years, but I only have one more with these girls. What am I gonna do to get them another national championship? How can I help them? And, I think it all comes down to how much do you love your teammates and how much do you want to succeed? How hard are you willing to work, not for yourself, but for others? And our coaches do a really good job of reminding us that and reminding us of that. So going home, working on my own game and then getting back to school, working on merging the units together, welcoming in the new players. We had to get Emma, we had to get Rachel involved in the offense. How can we help them? And it was really about what can I do for the team? What can I do for the unit so that that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, and in that following season, your team won the national championship, but also the ACC championship as well, which I do think is important to talk about. Firstly, talk about what it was like winning both those trophies and sort of what it meant to you. Also, talk about that national championship game a little bit because you guys were down 6-0 in that first quarter. I'm just curious, sort of, what was the message to your team before the second quarter, and how did you think of your team's response going into that? Because obviously, with Northwestern, I think a lot of people talk about Izzy Skane and Aaron Kuykendall, and rightfully so, but I think their defense is sort of underrated in how they like really shut teams down and make it hard for them. I think they've won a lot of games that way in the past. So I'm curious how you sort of figured out how to score goals on that really good defense that they have.
Yeah, I mean, Northwestern's really solid. They're really well coached as well. So they don't really have a lack in any unit. They have a really good draw team. They have good middies that can get up and down the field. The attack, like you said, in their defense that doesn't get as much credit, but they do their job really, really well. Being down 6-0, no one wants that. But there was a mentality shift where we saw what had happened a year ago. We had the flashback and I think we were all able to look at each other and kind of come to an agreement where we knew that this wasn't happening again. And it was Andrea Reynolds, the senior midi, who brought us all in, and she was so fired up. She was just in complete ball of energy and grit and determination, who was like, we're not out of this. We're getting the ball back. We're going down. We're scoring, throwing the first punch. Not really the first punch, but the next punch. And coming out after looking at Dre, and you just look at your seniors and you're like, this is it. And that just it gives you one extra inch. And in games like that, it comes down to inches. And we just knew we had to chip away one at a time, get that next goal, get that next play, get the next ground ball, and we were going to be okay. So that
Is
was
that the
important.
actual trophy behind you, by the way?
Yes, 2024. Yeah, it's right here.
Awesome. Awesome. That's
So
the
is
best
it.
background I've seen on anyone's Zoom, so I'll give you
The
credit for
ACC
that.
one's back here too. That one, we got both of them in here.
Nice, nice. Is there room for one more for this year?
There will be. There will be.
I do have to ask, like, obviously, no one really, I guess, I'm curious if players ever think about this. Obviously, the Final Four is going to be at Gillette this year. How meaningful is that to, like, you want to win in front of your home fan base and in Massachusetts? Like, that's got to be, like, an extra motivator to try to get it done this year as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's fun my freshman year being in Maryland. Maryland's a huge lacrosse state, and then the past 2 years being down in Carolina, trying to grow the game, get it in different locations. But being back home in my senior year, Final Four weekend, that's the goal. And I think that makes us work a little extra harder knowing that it's in our backyard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm thinking about trying to go to that to do some media stuff there. So I hope to see you there because I'm definitely trying to
Yeah.
make it out there as myself. So now, recently you got to participate in a USA lacrosse camp before the season. I just want to ask you what it was like being a part of that and getting the chance to represent your country every time you get to do that camp. It must be cool to see like other, college players that you normally don't get to play with, being with learning from them, I guess, for a week or two.
Yeah, USA is such a, again, like surreal experience. I mean, you grow up one like watching all these great players. Like I think of Michelle Tumalo, I think of Kayla Trainer. Then now it's I'm on the field with Sam Apuza, who's my coach, who's also one of the best players. And then I'm back on the field with Charlotte. I'm out there with Allie Kennedy, Marie McCool, Allie Mastriani, all these talented veteran players who I've looked up to and I've seen play before. And again, I think it makes me work so much harder because I'm like, these girls are really good. Like I don't want to be the one to mess up. Like how can I support them? What can I do for them? Because they're so good. They know what to do. And just learning from them and then being coached by some of like the best coaches. I mean, Acacia was there. She's great. But even at sixes, like Lindsay Monday she's so phenomenal and she's so smart. And I think that it's a really good opportunity just to learn, and it's more time to be out on the field playing and, playing the game that we love for the country that we love. And, I think that when you do play with such love for the game and like pride with like the name on your jersey, it makes you work so much harder.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you get cool swag like that as well,
Yeah.
which is
I don't
fun.
think I'm taking this off. It's one of my favorites.
Now, last lacrosse question before we get to the non-lacrosse segment is what are your team's goals and expectations for the rest of this year? Obviously, like we talked about, get back to the Final Four, but do you have any other goals that you might have? I feel like one goal maybe is like trying to be a good leader as possible, especially since you're a senior this year.
Yeah, I'm our senior class, the coaches ask a lot of us as leaders on and off the field. So I think back to leading people, not just the player. So how can I one help the offense and lead the offense in certain ways, but then how can I be a leader off the field and lead these people to success? Sorry, one of our freshmen just walked in. Um, that's a good goal to have. But then I think of more strategic is ACC championship. That's a little bit closer to us than the Natty, but ACC you have to go through the ACC gauntlet before you can even consider getting to the Final Four. So I would think that winning an ACC championship is going to be difficult, but having that opportunity to go back to back with ACCs would
Repeat.
be that 3P would be a great goal. That's a great goal that our team has as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, let's transition now to the non-lacrosse segment where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions, get to know you more off the field. I'll obviously answer some of these as well, but some of these I can't because I'm not on your team. And we'll start off with some of those. So,
Okay.
which player on the BC women's lacrosse team has the best off the field style besides yourself, obviously?
I can't even give that to myself. I think I have to give it to Alexa Kenny. She has such good style. She has her own sweatshirt brand collections called Shop ACK. Not an ad, but go check it out because she has great style. She always has the cutest little outfits on.
Nice, nice. So if she wants to sponsor the pod, feel free to hit us up.
I'll let her know.
Which player on the BC women's lacrosse team would you want to be on a long road trip with? Like you're stuck in a car for like 12 hours. Who would you pick?
Oh, okay. Either Lydia Calasante because she talks a lot, so she'd be really fun, or Emma Lapinto because yeah, I mean, I love Emma, and we can just talk forever about the most random things. And Emma's a good driver, which is really important.
Okay.
I've been thinking about that. I would have to let Emma drive, but she would be good.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I have to pick someone with a good music taste because obviously you want the road trip playlist to do really well. And then
Yeah,
someone who's a good talker, but also can be quiet because I need some quiet once in a
need a
while. So
balance.
yeah, a good balance for sure. So that's what I'm gonna go with. And then last BC teammate question is which teammate has the best TikTok account in your opinion?
Oh, it's Brooke McCloy, hands down. Or my sister. Hannah's is more funny, and Brooke is more like, wow, it's really cool, really well put together. And Hannah kind
Yeah.
of just posts to post. But Brooke has a very good following. She is all over TikTok, and she always does like the fun dances that I could never learn. And then Hannah does more of like the funny trolling videos. So both of them have very good TikToks.
Nice, nice. Have they ever collabed before, I
They
assume?
should. They did. They did
Okay.
one recently that was good, but they should do more together.
Now, speaking of road trips, where's one place you would love to travel to?
Anywhere?
Yeah, anywhere in the world, whether you've been there or not.
Oh, okay. I really want to go to Greece, but I also really want to go to Italy. Somewhere in Europe would be really fun.
Yeah.
Maybe Italy. Italy would be nice for like the food, but Greece would be pretty because of like all the beaches. So one of those two.
I would say for me, probably like Toronto, Canada. I feel like that looks like a fun city.
I've been there.
I have been there once too a long
Yeah,
time ago. I was like 8 years old and I want to go back. So that's the place I would love to visit
that's a
once.
good one. Yeah.
Now, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Kobe Bryant. I absolutely loved his whole mentality. And if I could just pick his brain about it, I would love to hear what he has to say and how I could translate everything that he did into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I remember hearing one story with him where like his teammates, I guess, would go out like during road games. And I guess one time he was like kind of sick of it and then like banged on their door like at 4 in the morning. Like when they came back, he's like, we gotta go work out just to get like all that out of them. And it just shows you like how like different he was compared to like some of the other players on his team.
Yeah, he's great.
I would say for me, similar answer to you, but Tom Brady, just to hear how he was sort of like an underrated, I guess, prospect and turned into the greatest player of all time. I just think that's a very inspirational story that I'd love to pick his brain about.
Oh, yeah, I love Tom.
And then last non-lacrosse question is, what's been the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
This week, oh, let me think back throughout the week. Actually, my mom sent me a book on tape, online book, and I haven't read it yet, but it looks really good and I'm really excited to read it. It's called Let Them. I think that's what it's called. But we were talking about it last night at dinner, and it's just a mentality book on how can you let things go or not so much, or like let other people just do them and like you do you, and like more like focusing on yourself. So that's on my list of things to read, and she just sent it to me. So I'm hoping that I'll actually get to listen or read it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I guess for me, I was listening to some music yesterday, and I was just curious, like, to hear like how certain songs were written. So like, I was just looking up like, what's this song about, and then like reading about it, and I just thought it was pretty cool, like how like you don't think like before that song was made, it was just like an idea, and it was cool to hear like how they put it all together. So that's sort of what
Yeah.
it would be. All right, let's get back to a couple more lacrosse questions. I guess the last one I really wanted to ask you, McKenna, was what advice would you give younger lacrosse players on what it takes to be in the position that you are now?
One piece of advice I would say is one, work as hard as you can, but two, fall in love with the game because if you love something, you'll want to succeed in it. So if you can find that love, find the passion, you will find success in that and it'll make you want to work harder.
What would should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I think the media has gotten a lot better, I think, with game times and broadcasting just so people can watch. But spreading it out, so, lacrosse, it's very East Coast, but trying to get it across country. I know a lot of people have been out on the West Coast growing the game, and I think that that's really important. So going to places where, lacrosse isn't that popular and just teaching more people, teaching more kids, teaching them how to play and making them want to play more. So going to places that it's not as popular, whether that's Midwest, down south, wherever, just trying to spread it out across country as best we can.
Yeah, for sure. I would say for me, the two is obviously streaming. Sometimes these games are really hard to find. You have to like go through different loopholes just to watch. And I feel like if you make it more available, like whether it's on a TV or streaming service, more people will be able to watch because the sport obviously can't grow if people can't watch. And then another thing was posting more highlights on social media. I feel like certain teams don't post any highlights of the game that they played. And I feel like even if it doesn't get like a lot of views or likes, just having it out there, I feel like would help grow the sport as well because then maybe someone could find it, pick it up, repost it, and then that video can go viral. So I guess I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked about enough, but that's sort of one thing that I think could help grow the sport a little bit more.
I agree. And then people can watch it and be like, this is exactly where I want to be in 5 years, you know?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So I agree with you on that. I guess the last question I have for you, McKenna, is any shout outs you want to give, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Anyone on my BC team would be great, but maybe specifically, I think Abby Harrod would be really good. She's our draw taker. She's phenomenal. She's from my hometown. She's from Canandaigua. So I would have to shout out Abby Harrod. She's great. She'd be so good at this.
Nice, nice. We'll definitely have to reach out at some point and see what she has to say. But McKenna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you today and obviously wishing you all the best for the rest of your season. So now we've had the whole Davis family on. I guess we could try to get your dad on. That would be interesting, even though
That
this
would
is
be
a women's
fun.
lacrosse podcast. But if you have any cousins or something that do play lacrosse, we'll definitely try to reach out to them to get all the family on.
Get the whole fam involved. I love it.
Well, McKenna, it was great talking with you, though, and I really appreciate our conversation today. Thank you so much, for coming on.
Yep, thank you.